Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the Eiffel Tower here, we are still in Paris for Art Week, and in this video we'll be visiting two very special museums over the course of 2 days. So today we are visiting the Fondation Louis Vuitton, which is an incredible museum for so many reasons. It opened about 10 years ago in 2014, and it was designed by one of my favorite architects, Frank Gehry. So before we see the Pop Forever exhibit, which celebrates the works of Tom Wesselmann and other adjacent pop modern artists and contemporary artists, we're going to have lunch at Le Franc, which is named after Frank Gehry. These are some of his beautiful sculptures above us, and I'm pretty sure he designed everything else in the restaurant, from the table settings to the seats. And today is actually my birthday, and I've never eaten here before, so I thought it was a great day to come try it out, and it was fantastic. And now for the main event, the Pop Forever exhibit. So as I mentioned, this exhibit is centered around Tom Wesselmann, who was born in 1931 and died in 2004. He was a leading figure of the pop art movement, and this show features 150 of his works. Apparently, they started planning this exhibit 8 years ago. So the show also features 70 works by 35 artists, some modern, some contemporary, and they're all adjacent to the pop art movement in some way. So not just Tom Wesselmann's works we'll enjoy, but a lot of others as well. The exhibit starts at the lowest level of the museum, and it proceeds to go up 3 more levels, and then we will end on the exquisite roof, in which hopefully it will have stopped raining at that point. This is a really special floor because, of course, it immediately introduces us to the works of Tom Wesselmann, but it also highlights some other incredible pop artists that we know and love from that time, such as Klaus Oldenburg, Yayoi Kusama, David Hammons, and Jasper Johns, just to name a few. And to really understand a particular art movement, I think it's important to know how it began and why it became so popular. I think that's a great place to start. So pop art emerged in the 1950s after World War II and after the popular movement of abstract expressionism, which focused on capturing emotions and feelings through abstracting things. So pop art took a more humorous, less serious approach, and it was a more accessible approach by focusing on everyday objects, similar to how Dada focused on the ready-made. So pop art was also influenced by the mass media through television, books, and magazines, and becoming available to the masses, as well as a boom in the American economy, which led to an increase in the production of consumer goods as well as advertising. So that's why at the beginning of the exhibit, we see a number of American flag pieces. They're inspired by the American dream, but we see pieces as well that call out the fact that the American dream is only real for certain people. Tom Wesselmann was born in 1931 in Ohio, where he enrolled at the Art Academy of Cincinnati in 1954 to study drawing and cartooning. He ended up transferring to Cooper Union in New York, and he graduated in 1959, and it was here that he moved away from producing cartoons to fine art instead. Very shortly after that, he began creating some of his first series that would become famous today, such as the Still Life series and his Great American Nude series, which he began in 1961 and 1962, respectively. Wesselmann's still life series highlighted American life, abundance, and consumer culture. These still lives are large and vibrant, often depicting everyday consumer goods like cigarettes and fruit and appliances and household items. Some pieces included collaged advertisements and real objects like radios or telephones. And Wesselmann created these from 1962 through to the 1970s. So all the works by adjacent pop artists and some Dada artists on this floor explore similar themes around consumer culture, as well as things that were being highly romanticized at that time within culture, such as processed foods and road trips across America, for example. The exhibit continues on the next floor, and it continues to show what are some of my favorite still lives from Tom Wesselmann. I love these ones where he's incorporated TVs or radio or real sounds. This floor also shares many works from his great American nude series, which I have not included a lot of here because YouTube can be a little sensitive and I don't want to get flagged, but you can explore those on your own. So Wesselmann created his great American nude series from 1961 to 1983. There's also a number of contemporary artists featured on this floor whose works are adjacent to the two series that we just saw from Wesselmann. This floor features two more famous series from Tom Wesselmann, the bedroom paintings, which he created from 1968 to 1983, and the seascapes, which he created from the 1960s through the 1970s. So as you could guess by the names of the bedroom paintings, they feature a variety of intimate scenes and exploration of the nude form. A lot of focus on feet, and the seascapes feature more feet as well as legs and the occasional breast in these cropped views of beach scenes. And again, we see works from a number of contemporary pop artists. I will say this is the only part of the show I wish was a little more current. There were a number of key pop artists I feel that were missing, like Daniel Arsham and Nick Doyle, just to name a few. Doyle specifically does this really incredible work inspired by the Klaus Oldenburg light switch that we saw downstairs, and I think it would have been perfect in this exhibit. I really like this room because it focuses on Wesselmann's technique and how he creates his works, which I always think is really fascinating to see. The final floor of the show features three more famous series of Wesselmann's, one that he created at the very end of his life. So while these are technically called still lives, they're very different from the still lives that we saw on the previous floors. As you can see, the scale is monumental, and these works have taken on a three-dimensionality. So these are his cutouts and metalworks that he created from the 1980s through the 1990s. These are works from Tom Wesselmann's Smoker series, which he created in the 1970s. And we saw a lot of these at Art Basel Paris. They feature this really sexy close-up of women's mouths exhaling smoke. The final series that Wesselmann completed also happens to be my favorite, and that is his abstract drawings, which he created from the 1990s to the 2000s. And these are called abstract drawings because Wesselmann is drawing with metal, aluminum pieces to be specific, and he used them to create these incredible gestural fluid pieces. I think it's so interesting that this is where Wesselmann ended his practice. He died in 2004, just a year after one of the oldest of these works we see here were created. But what I find interesting is that if you remember in the beginning of the show, we talked about the origins of pop art and how it came to be a thing. In addition to other reasons, it was a direct response to abstract expressionism, which was the movement that was incredibly popular prior to pop art. And it focused on capturing emotion and feeling surrounding something instead of the physical form of something. So I think that it's really interesting that for one of the most famous pop artists who dedicated most of his career to creating traditional pop art, that was a rebellion of this expressionist movement before, that he would end his career creating works that are essentially abstract expressionism. So just this crazy full circle moment. And now for the finale. So if you go to the Louis Vuitton Foundation, you do not want to miss going up on the roof. There are such incredible views of Paris. You can even see the Eiffel Tower from some parts of it, as well as just the beautiful park. It's pretty phenomenal. And now we're going to make our way to a very special birthday dinner at Cafe Marley. This has become a little tradition over the last few years. This restaurant is great for many reasons, but one of the best is being able to have a lovely meal while enjoying views of the iconic glass pyramids of the Louvre. And that's all for tonight. Tomorrow, we are going to be visiting the Bourse de Commerce, featuring an exhibit all about Arte Povera, which is something that I wasn't that knowledgeable about. So this exhibit was fantastic because I learned so much, and hopefully you will too. It is another beautiful day in Paris. It is not raining today, which is a rarity, so we're going to take advantage of that and have a nice long walk to the museum. But first, we're going to stop into the Samaritain because I have a few things that I wanted, and I just never miss a chance to see this beautiful building. The Galeries Lafayette is another stunning department store in Paris that I recommend. And this one's great because they have a cute little restaurant at the top of the building where you can have a coffee or a drink, and you're even closer to the gorgeous ceiling. We're now off to the Bourse de Commerce to see the Arte Povera exhibit. It is starting strong, featuring this work by the Italian artist Giuseppe Pennone. And if you're like me and didn't know much about Arte Povera, don't worry, I will give you a little overview about what it is. Arte Povera is an art movement that emerged in Italy in the late 1960s, and it directly translates to poor art in Italian, and it was a term coined by the art critic Germano Celant in 1967 to describe a group of artists who, quote, rejected the commercialization and traditional practices of contemporary art by embracing raw, everyday, and unconventional materials to challenge the boundaries of art and engage with political and social issues. Some key themes that you'll see in the works in the show are the following. So first, the use of everyday materials such as wood, stone, fabric, soil, glass, and scrap metal. There's also anti-elitism. So the movement's mission was to dismantle the distinction between high art and low culture, often focusing on the simplicity and accessibility of materials. There's also the engagement with nature and time. So many of the works explore themes of temporality, transformation, and the relationship between nature and humanity, as well as there are a lot of political undertones. Which brings us to how this movement came about. It was during a time of significant political unrest and cultural change in Italy. There was a lot of corruption, there was an uneven distribution of wealth, as well as this abundance of unemployment. So this time is often referred to as the Years of Lead, which is a reference to the vast number of bullets fired during various crises and conflict. The exhibit starts with this very large hall, and they've gathered together works by the most famous artists from the Arte Povera movement. And then off of this hall, there are various wings and gallery spaces, each of which are dedicated to one of these artists, highlighting their work. So I will go into more depth of each of them there. We're going to start with Yannis Kounelis, and he was a Greek-Italian artist known for his innovative use of raw and unconventional materials like coal, steel, burlap, fire. He even incorporated live animals into his works. And his art often explored themes of industrialization, human labor, and the conflict or contrast between the natural world and the artificial constructs of modern life, and how modern advancements can often disrupt, exploit, or transform the natural environment. Maritza Merz was an Italian artist and significantly the only woman that you will see here today attributed to the Arte Povera movement. She was known for using unconventional materials like copper wire, aluminum, and knitted fibers, and creating these intimate, poetic works that reference domesticity and the human form. Marissa Merz was married to Mario Merz, another key figure in the Arte Povera movement. And I would say he's best known for his use of neon in his works. You will often see him use the igloo as well as a symbol in his works to, quote, symbolize shelter and humanity's connection to the environment. He also incorporates the Fibonacci sequence into his works to, quote, represent natural growth and universal order. Michelangelo Pistoletto's work engages with social and philosophical themes, exploring the relationship between art, reality, and society. So his mirror paintings, we just saw one, are some of his most famous. You've definitely probably seen them before. They are meant to break down the traditional boundary between the artwork and its audience as a reflection of the viewer becomes part of the artwork. It's meant to question the role of the observer within the art experience. Alighiero Boetti celebrated the beauty in small differences that emerge naturally within repeated processes, showing how these acts reflect both individuality and a larger unifying order. So in general, he had a strong interest in systems and randomness. He also strongly believed in the collective production of art, so he often enlisted others to help him with the actual creation of his works. Giuseppe Pannone focused mostly on sculpture, which honestly many of the Arte Povera artists did. If you hadn't noticed, I'd say overwhelming lean towards sculpture compared to most artistic movements. And he particularly focused on the relationship between humans and nature. His works often touched on the themes of transformation, growth, and the passage of time. I would say that he's most famous for his tree sculptures, and we saw a really lovely one outside of the museum at the beginning of the show, and we see more here. Giovanni Anselmo's work often explores the themes of energy, gravity, and the relationship between natural forces and human intervention. You can see his work is more minimal, using simple materials like stone and metal and rope to emphasize the interaction between objects and their environment. Luciano Fabro's work focused a lot on perspective. So, for example, in these 4 large works on the wall, he's exploring different ways of studying the facade of an Italian church. His works were also heavily influenced by his Italian culture and national identity. And this is seen in the way that he captured various Italian monuments, as well as reimagining the map of Italy in general in his works. Pino Pascali had a short but innovative career. He died in a motorcycle accident at the age of 32, but his works played with scale and form, often taking industrial materials and turning them into whimsical sculptures. Giulio Pallini is best known for creating work that examines the act of creation itself, making the process of art making and its historical context central to his practice. And this is where we will end the exhibit. As always, I will leave more information linked in the description box below if you want to explore more. For now, I think we are going to enjoy the fact that it is still not raining and walk around a little more before we have a lovely dinner. Tonight, we are going to one of my favorite restaurants in Le Marais. It's called Chez Janou, and it's a very classic French bistro. They're best known for their chocolate mousse, I would say. They bring it by in this massive pot and then scoop you out some. It is phenomenal. And that's all for this video. In the next ones, we'll be exploring some of the best art gallery exhibits that I saw in Paris. So definitely stay tuned for that and make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss it. And I'll see you all then.